I have 3 proposed charter amendments which I would like to read into the minutes. The purpose is for council to be aware of them for any issues that would preclude their being forwarded to the Board of Elections. Personal opinion does not count. Number 1. Title: Residents to question city staff members at council meetings. Whereas the citizens of the City of Canfield desire to be able to ask any questions of staff members in regard to their areas of responsibility after their respective council meetings, therefore, Article 3, Section 309 of the City of Canfield Charter is to be amended to read as follows. The council shall meet at such times and places as may be prescribed by its ordinances, resolutions, rules, or by motion. Regular meetings shall be held at least twice in each calendar month, except that during the months of July and August, the council may dispense with one of its regular meetings. In addition, the council members, president of council, the mayor, and city manager, the following persons shall attend each council meeting and report on their areas of responsibility at each meeting: finance director, chief of police, zoning inspector, public works foreman. These reports shall be open to any questions in regard to the staff members' area of responsibility or their reports by any resident or their representatives in attendance. Council may limit any person or their representative to a maximum of 3 minutes on any single question. Second, city manager to be elected. Whereas the residents of the City of Canfield, Ohio, desire to elect a non-partisan city manager instead of appointment by council, Article 5, Sections 501, 502 of the Charter of the City of Canfield are to be combined and revised as follows. Beginning with the general election of 2017 and odd number years thereafter, the Canfield City Manager shall be elected by the voters of the City of Canfield for a term of 2 years with no term limits. If there are multiple candidates in the election, the person garnering most votes shall be declared the winner. The Canfield City Manager must be a resident of the City of Canfield or relocate to the City of Canfield within 1 year of his/her election. Failure of an elected manager to do so will result in removal from office. Council shall make no exceptions to this rule except if there is no candidate on the ballot. If no resident candidate is on the ballot, an acting resident or non-resident may be selected in open council after publicly soliciting for candidates. Candidates may be residents or non-residents, with preference given to residents. The acting city manager may serve the term until the next odd year general election and not be required to relocate to the city. No one elected or appointed as a member of council or mayor may be elected as a city manager until 2 years after such member has terminated his/her membership on the council. Under the current practice of contracting a city manager, council may not issue any contract extending beyond 2017. If the contracted city manager position should be vacated for any reason, council may then appoint in open session a resident or non-resident after publicly soliciting for candidates to fill the remaining position of the contract through 2017, with preference being given to a city resident. If the elected city manager should be removed per Charter Article 5, Section 5.07 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, the position vacated for any reason prior to the end of his term, City Council may appoint an acting city manager who resides in the city to fill the term according to this amendment. The first choice and offer should be to the person who garnered the second most ballots in the last election, if any. Next preference should be given to a city resident, with the final choice made by City Council in open session after publicly soliciting for candidates. Otherwise, a non-resident may be selected to fill the unexpired term, with the final choice made by City Council in regular session with public input after publicly soliciting for candidates. Any public solicitation for candidates shall be done in local newspapers, City of Canfield website, and council minutes. A minimum of 15 days shall pass after all solicitation efforts before council makes a final selection. The compensation for city manager, whether elected or appointed, will be determined by council before March 31st of each odd number year and thereafter. This compensation will be for each of the 2 years in the elected appointed period. The manager shall refrain from participation in the election of members of council, municipal attorney, and from all partisan political activities which would impair the professional administration and duties of the manager. One more to go. Title: Canfield City Municipal Attorney to be elected. Whereas the residents of the city of Canfield desire to elect a nonpartisan municipal attorney instead of that position being appointed by city council, therefore Article 6, Section 602 of the city charter is to be amended to read as follows. Beginning with the general election of 2017, in odd number years thereafter, the Canfield City Municipal Attorney shall be elected by the voters of the city of Canfield for a term of 2 years with no term limits. If there are multiple qualified candidates in the election, the person garnering the most votes shall be declared the winner. The municipal attorney must be admitted to the practice of law in the state of Ohio. The municipal attorney must be a resident of the city of Canfield or relocate to the city within 1 year of his or her election. Failure of an elected municipal attorney to do so will result in removal from office. Council shall make no exception to this rule, except if there is no qualified candidate on the ballot. If no qualified resident candidate is on the ballot, an interim resident or non-resident may be selected in an open, regularly scheduled council meeting after publicly soliciting for candidates. First preference given to a city resident. The interim municipal attorney may serve the term until the next odd year general election and not be required to relocate to the city. Any public solicitation for candidates shall be done in local newspapers, the City of Canfield website, and council minutes. A minimum of 15 days shall pass after all solicitation efforts have ended before council makes any final selection. Under the current practice of annually contracting a municipal attorney, council may not issue any contract extending beyond 2017. If the contracted municipal attorney position should be vacated for any reason before 2017, council may appoint in a regularly scheduled meeting a qualified person, resident or non-resident, after publicly soliciting candidates to fill the remaining portion of the contract, preference given to a city resident. Residency is not required for this unexpired term. If the elected municipal attorney position should be vacated for any reason prior to the end of his/her term, council may appoint a qualified interim municipal attorney who resides in the city to fulfill the term. The first choice and offer should be to the person who garnered the second most votes in the last election, if any. Next preference should be given to a qualified city resident, with the first choice made by city council in open session after publicly soliciting for candidates. Otherwise, a qualified non-resident may be selected to fill the unexpired term, with the final choice being made by city council in a regular session after publicly soliciting for candidates, with no requirement to relocate to the city for that term. The compensation for the municipal attorney, whether elected or appointed, will be determined by council before March 31st of each odd number election year and thereafter. This compensation will be for each of the 2-year elected appointed period. The municipal attorney may be removed by a majority vote of council. Duties of the municipal attorney are specified in Article 6, Section 6.03 of the Charter of the City of Canfield. The municipal attorney shall refrain from participation in the election of members of council, city manager, and from all partisan political activities which would impair the professional administration of the duties of city attorney. I will present these to the...
Frank,
Yes.
would you repeat that?
Yeah.
I do have a serious question. I didn't hear, did you mention any, I have 2 questions. One is, did you list any qualifications for the city manager?
No.
You did?
No, there are none in the charter.
The other question I have is, what is your end in mind? Or what is motivating you to make these dramatic changes in how the city is managed? What's your purpose?
My purpose, all of you are elected. I think the people who run the city, who represent us, should be elected people. I think the
Do
people should.
you understand the concept of the charter manager form of government?
I think so.
I think you don't.
He clearly does not. And Frank, to be honest with you, I mean, you have no experience in writing statutes. You have no experience in writing law.
Right.
I mean, those are a train wreck as I'm sitting here listening to them.
Well, if you can find reasons, Mark, do it. You know, I think I've covered all the bases pretty well.
Pardon me?
I think I've covered the bases pretty well.
I'm afraid you haven't.
Well,
But we'll see.
Can I ask another question?